It's important, and authentic communication is a key component to authentic community. And now that we know what it means to be authentic, then we can look at the communication side of it. One of the things I want to touch on is for you to have authentic communication, you have to have authenticity first. For you to be an authentic community, you have to have authenticity first in all areas of your life, not just one. When you are in authentic community, or when you are even trying to communicate authentically, it's those areas that you neglect that speak louder than what comes out of your mouth. So if you're just playing the role and still being different people at different times, and eventually you could be standing in front of somebody trying to speak authentically to them, and they're just hearing Charlie Brown, wah, 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 because all they can think about is how you're not being authentic in these other areas that they know about. Right? And so that I'm just using this as a very small example, but know that in every area of your life, if it is not the same, it will shine brighter than anything else. And other people will know. And so ultimately, the only person that you're lying to when dealing with being authentic is yourself. Because we had this discussion before. You know when someone's not being authentic. You know when someone's playing the game. Heck, we have testimonies that come in here that don't live life like we do. And we know immediately when they're done with their testimony that they're not like us. Not that they're even trying to be unauthentic, but it's just not the same. You can identify it. It's an undeniable. And so if you can identify it in other people, they can identify it in you, which is the key to authentic community. But we started this off by breaking down these words, and tonight we'll break down communication. Eric said it looked like there was some good stuff in here. I really didn't get a chance to look at it too much outside of the basic parts of it. But let's go ahead and do it like we did last week. And Eric, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. Authentic communication. It's from the Webster's Revised Unabridged Dictionary. Noun, the act or fact of communicating, as communication of smallpox, communication of a secret. 2. Noun, intercourse by words, letters, or messages, interchange of thoughts or opinions by conference or other means. Conference, correspondence. Now, an association, company, means of communicating, means of passing from place to place, a connecting passage, connection. That which is communicated or imparted, intelligence, news, a verbal or written message. Participation in the Lord's Supper. A trope by which the speaker assumes that his hearer is a partner in his sentiments and says we instead of I or you.
Stop right there. What stood out to you? And I have a printed copy too.
I think that last one. Yeah. We instead of I or you, a community.
Have you ever thought about communication like that?
No, my go-to of the word communication is, could be one-on-one or one to a mass, not as connection. I mean, I guess you could see it as connection, but it's not where I went when I think of it.
Eric, anything?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to, when I read this stuff, it's more than, I see an emphasis in more than just talking. It seems there's more when it talks about, it assumes that his hearer is a partner in his sentiments and says we instead of I or you. To me, that's, there's some authenticity there just in that statement. That's more of just, it's, when you're assuming your hearer is a partner in your sentiments, there's a connection there. So it's deeper than just me talking. There's something implied. If that makes any sense.
Yes. So to commune is to converse confidentially and sympathetically. Sympathetically. I knew the guy that reads the dictionary would be able to help me. Dude, I might have you in my office looking over everything I write. So, just that sentence alone. Represented in both Hebrew and Greek by several different words, literally signifying to speak, dialogue. To communicate is to impart something to another so that it becomes common to giver and receiver. Yada, yada, yada. King James. So, I thought this was interesting, these three reflections. Reflections on three communication scriptures. Hebrew 13, 1 through 17 from Matthew's commentary. The sacrifice of alms deeds and Christian charity. To do good, to communicate, forget not. For with such sacrifices God is well pleased. We must, accordingly to our power, communicate to the necessities of the souls and bodies of men, not contenting ourselves to offer the sacrifice of our lips, mere words, but the sacrifice of good deeds. And these we must lay down upon this altar, not depending upon the merit of our good deeds, but of our great high priest. And with such sacrifices as these, adoration and alms thus offered up, God is well pleased. He will accept the offering with pleasure and will accept and bless the offerers through Christ. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And someone can read Ephesians 1. Like I said, I got a printed copy if you want to. Oh, it's hurting my eyes, that one.
Ephesians 4:17.
Mm-hmm. 429.
We are here warned against corrupt communication and directed to that which is useful and edifying. Filthy and unclean words and discourse are poisonous and infectious. As how you say that word? As putrid, rotten meat. They proceed from and prove a great deal of corruption in the heart of the speaker, and tend to corrupt the minds and manners of others who hear them. And therefore Christians should beware of all such discourse. It may be taken in general for all that which provokes the lust and passions of others. We must not only put off corrupt communications, but put on that which is good to the use of edifying. The great use of speech is to edify those with whom we converse. Christians should endeavor to promote a useful conversation, that it may minister grace unto the hearers, that it may be good for and acceptable to the hearers in the way of information, counsel, pertinent reproof, or the like. Observe, it is the great duty of Christians to take care that they offend not with their lips, and that they improve discourse and converse as much as may be, for the good of others. Be not deceived, evil communications corrupt good manners. 1 Corinthians 15:33. A biblical definition of communication. A caution against dangerous conversation of bad men, men of loose lives and principles. Be not deceived, says he. Evil communications corrupt good manners. Possibly some of those who said that there was no resurrection of the dead were men of loose lives and endeavored to countenance their vicious practices by so corrupt a principle, and had that speech often in their mouths.
Okay. Anything that sticks out in there?
That word loose.
Loose.
Loosey-goosey. No, I think that it's a good tool to look at in the way what comes out of your mouth, what you speak. Are you being a little loose with, some of the things that you're saying to other people?
Based on who you're around, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. That corrupts every aspect of your life. I mean, especially, a good saying with good manners. It just causes you to kind of bring that into any other area. I don't know. I've been facing that a little bit here at work, and there's an individual I work with that is extremely loose, is what he says. And lately I've been getting on him for it, not in a sense of like you're wrong, but just like saying, what my thoughts are on him talking like that. And, challenges me to make sure I'm obedient to what comes out of my mouth.
It says right there, be not deceived. Evil communications corrupts good manners. So just because it's not coming from you doesn't mean that it's not affecting you or infecting you.
Yeah.
It is.
I like that, because being where I was for the past month, it didn't matter if I stayed in my cell the entire time and read the Bible and drew or wrote or did something, it still had an effect on what I was doing. it wasn't right. I knew it was going to be like difficult, but not that difficult. It was not a pleasant experience. I didn't like being there, and it was just crappy altogether, but it was super difficult being around that insanity. Going from one cell to, just with a few people, and all they wanted to do is talk about, going out as soon as they left, and it was crazy. It really, I struggled with that, those conversations that, you can't really pull yourself away from because you're sitting with a bunch of crazies. And
It's exactly what
dude,
this said.
it was hard.
It says a caution against the dangerous conversation of bad men who loose lies and principles, do not deceive, says he. Evil communications corrupt good manners. So basically, for me, in a sense, everything that I'm about here, if I take that out into the world, I'm going against everything that has been placed in front of me and been learning up to this point and got me to the point I'm at today. If I engage in them conversations, just like them in a sense.
Even if you don't engage into them,
Yeah, so
they're still gonna.
no, that's what I'm
Eventually-
Still engaging by
There's-
not engaging, like having the appropriate, communication. That's what I see in myself. Is if I'm sitting there and letting him, like you were saying, it's affecting me in some way, shape, or form mentally. And by not saying anything, you're allowing it to manifest, allow it to be something that's consistent. When that person's around you, they believe that you're okay with that, the way that they're talking.
Yeah, I agree.
It's important. Like, I don't know, it's extremely important.
Well, you think about it, you're allowing that to happen, right? So you are essentially taking everything that you say that you are, placing it aside, and now this person is your altar. You're worshiping them. In a relationship or in communication where you have to communicate with this person continuously. Not every circumstance is the same, but in that particular circumstance, you're doing a lot more than just not saying something.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's good.
No, they say that, you are who you hang around, that cliche. It's true. Human nature, you pick on habits, different things of other people, and then unconsciously, you will compare yourself to other people if you're not careful. And so if you're not careful, you'll pick up these behaviors, and then you can justify in your head, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not as bad as this person, and so you have to be very careful with that. And listen, one of the big messages I get out of this is, your confession must match your walk. You can speak things out of your mouth, but if your actions don't match up to what you're saying, then, basically that's, you're not being authentic. And that's the point that Jason was talking about earlier, that, people can see that, and so, it's,
So let's talk about we talk about the times that it's obvious where it's uncomfortable, like the position that you were in. Let's talk about the times when it's comfortable. Because that happens too. Where we allow that corrupt or that evil type of communication through the music in which we listen to, through what we watch, or what we read sometimes, what we joke about, yeah. That's the same thing. And it's probably more powerful than the positions that it's not comfortable. Because now we've become double-minded, and often follows false humility. Because if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander type of deal. We're acting one way here, going, man, don't talk to me like that or whatever. Or I'm not going to be around that. And then over here in this particular arena, entertainment, whatever it is, we are fully engaged in the same type of communication that's leading us astray. Just thought I'd point that out.
It's definitely a gut check for me.
So, this next part should be fun. Someone start reading that.
Communication, the oral Torah. The mouth, the letter P, follows the I, the letter Ayin. The 5 kindnesses and 5 mights of the right and left eyes discussed in the letter Ayin are in fact the dual manifestations of the Sephirah of Dot, knowledge as taught in Kabbalah. The At is the power of union and communication. Providence is the power of the At as revealed by the eyes. The power of the At as revealed by the mouth, speech, is the more explicit form of contact and communication between individuals. Just as in the verse, and Adam knew his wife Eve, knew, the power of Dot refers to the physical union of man and wife. So is speech idiomatically used by our sages to refer to such union. So we are taught in the Zohar the power of the At is concealed in the mouth. The At contact at the level of the eyes is the secret of the written Torah. In reading the written Torah in the synagogue service, the reader must see every letter of the Torah scroll. Sometimes a silver finger is used to point direct one's sight to every word. Contact at the letter of the mouth is the secret of the oral Torah. There is no good other than Torah. The P, is the 17th letter of the Aleph Beit. The numerical value of the Hebrew word tov, good, as discussed at length in the letter Tet. The first word spoken by the mouth of God, let there be light, upon spontaneously being realized as the actual creation of light. Let there be light upon spontaneously being realized as the actual creation of light were subsequently seen by his eyes to be good. The word good is the 33rd word of Torah. The sum of the ordinal values of the 2 letters Ayin and Pei, 33 equals 16 plus 17, thus alluding to the union of the 2 levels of the At. Contact that of the eyes, the written Torah, and that of the mouth, the oral Torah.
Alright, let's just, that was a lot there. What jumped out at you? So basically, we've been talking about one part of communication so far, and that's just been the mouth. Now we're starting to talk about the eyes. People can communicate with their eyes, can they not? They can communicate authentically or unauthentically. They can communicate evil, good, without ever saying a word, can they not?
Body language.
Right now we're just talking about eyes.
Eyes are the window to the soul. I heard that quote. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Appreciate that. And so a lot of people in life have a very difficult time looking at people in their eyes when they're communicating. And you all know I don't have a problem with it. But I would say that you would have a hard time communicating authentically with your mouth if you were not communicating the same thing with your eyes. What does that mean? Simply looking at the person. That in itself is a show of engagement, respect. That's the difference between I and we. And so, professional speakers, their goal is to have individual conversations with the entire crowd at the same time. How do they do that?
Eye contact.
It's it. Simple as that. It's a very important tool in authentic communication. Because I can tell by looking at you whether you are not paying attention to me, whether you disagree with me, whether you agree with me, whether you're in your head, all sorts of different things. Can I not?
Yeah.
So, in authentic communication, it's very important for the giver to be looking and for the hearer to be looking as well, because you're sending a message both ways. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean that you don't look at the person. Or just because you don't agree with the person doesn't mean you don't engage by looking at them. That is a tool of the hearer. Because if something's rubbing you wrong based on what is being communicated by the mouth, then instead of looking away and shutting down, you might want to look at and engage and see if this person is being authentic. Because if they are, there's truth there. And if you miss the truth, then you're going to have to go through it again and hear it another way. Does that make sense? Because, our Creator, He is a creator of order. And so He says, all right, Jason Vosler, and He's got his little list here. He doesn't go, okay, did this. Yeah, no, he missed that, so we'll just scratch that one and just keep going. No. He goes, all right, here we are. He needs to receive this. And so, however, whenever, he will use tools to get that message across, because in that message is the truth, and application of the truth is freedom. So who are you? This, again, comes down to a position check. Because if you say you are something, and you're even acting out something, but when it comes down to this, the signs aren't here, then you're not who you say you are. Right? So what's a word for somebody who is not what they say they are? I like to call them liars. That's one of my favorite words. That really tends to get you right where you don't want to be gotten. But it's the truth. You know, call things for what they are. When we are in authentic community, I'm pretty sure we don't want to be conveyed as a liar. There's a difference between failing at something through honest obedience and unauthentic denial of who you say you are based on your current position. Right? I mean, you go to work as an employee, Eric, for whatever ABC company. You show up with your little name badge on and get in there and start messing with all their stuff. But if you really, when you got in there, you really were surfing the web on Facebook and looking at this and looking at that and having conversation and taking extra breaks and hiding from the boss, you really are not an employee of ABC company, even though you're going around and playing the role of that employee. Correct?
Yeah, but you just described my typical work day.
And you're a liar, dude.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, you think about all the different communications you have throughout each day, throughout each week, throughout each month. And then you go back and you see, am I who I say I am in each one of these things? Could be communication here, could be communication at work, could be communication to the guy that just cut you off, could be communication to your mom or family, could be communication to me. I mean, there's lots of different interactions throughout the day. You have the ability to identify your current position based on all those communications. Because if you're off, then you stop. It's kind of like a daily inventory. Now we go back and see why. Why was I this way during this communication time? What's the root of that? And then, if you truly seek restoration, then you go back and apply whatever tools need to be applied to that particular type of circumstance so that that doesn't happen again. It's a very quick way to do a daily inventory. Because the most important thing is that you are who you say you are. Because that says to you what position you're in. And the whole goal is to stay in the next right position or in the position so that you don't miss what your maker, your designer, your programmer has for you. So what else does he talk about in here?
I really like this last sentence. The word good is the 33rd word of the Torah. The sum of the ordinal values with two letters, ayin and pei, 16 plus 37 equals 33. This is really good. Alluding to the union of the two levels of dayat contact, that of the eyes, which is the written Torah, and that of the mouth, which is the oral Torah. So that's obviously I didn't know that. The gematria, which is the numbers behind the words in Hebrew. It's interesting that the Hebrew word for good is a combination of those two, which is the written Torah and oral Torah. That's interesting. Very interesting.
So you have to have both.
I like that he mentioned that because I had written down just like in that same paragraph, the mouth of God said, "Let there be light," and upon spontaneously being realized as the actual creation of light, or subsequently seen by his eyes to be good, meaning what he spoke was a visual of what he saw or someone else saw, which was his confession matching his conduct, which was
Give me goosebumps, man.
that.
Very good.
It is.
Very good.
That's fire right there. I mean, that is complete fire. So important.
I think it also goes to, you're only going to see based on where your heart's at, where you're at. That gets into, if you're not being authentic, then it's going to be hard for you to see things in an authentic manner, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah. It makes a lot of sense to us. We had to deal with it last couple of days.
It's funny how you can learn from things, situations. Gives you we should be looking at ourselves, seeing where we can improve, and things like that. Really put you in your place. I've been through that.
All right, so someone else read.
Of the people of Israel, it is said, "You are my witnesses," says God, and God's testimony is within you. With closed eyes we testify twice every day. Hear, O Israel, God is our God, God is one. The ayin of the first word, Shema, hear, and the dalet of the last word, Echad, one, are written large. Together they spell the word witness. The soul of every Jew is an eye, witness to the essential unity of God. In this world we must close our physical eyes in order to reveal the inner eye of Israel, which beholds the divine unity. By proclaiming our testimony verbally, we unify the two levels of contact, that of eye and that of mouth. Expression of wisdom proceeds from the inner eye of the heart to the mouth. As is said, the heart of the wise informs his mouth. Words of wisdom, when expressed sincerely and humbly by the mouth, find favor and grace in the eyes of God and man. As is said, the words of the mouth of the wise find favor. In Sefer Yetzirah, we are taught that the gift to the holy mouth is grace. In good, there is no good other than Torah, are inherent two essential properties, truth and grace. Though each dimension of Torah expresses the inter-inclusion of both of these properties, nonetheless, in particular, truth, the male figure primarily defined by the Sifirot of Tiferet in Yesod and Kabbalah, is the primary consciousness of the written Torah, whereas grace, the female figure, Malchut, is that of the oral Torah. The power of Peh, the mouth, is thus to express the grace of the oral Torah.
Expression of wisdom proceeds from the inner eye of the heart to the mouth. As it is said, the heart of the wise informs the mouth.
So that's it.
How about the sentence above that? By proclaiming our testimony verbally, we unify the two levels of contact, that of the eye and that of the mouth.
No doubt.
It's authentic right there.
fire right there.
I love this other paragraph too. In this world, we must close our physical eyes in order to reveal the inner eye of God, really, which beholds the divine unity. By proclaiming our testimony verbally that we see that, then that happens. So we have to physically close our eyes to go in where God is. Because he's not out there. And he's not up there. He's in there. So what's the easiest way to get inside? It's to close your eyes. Close your ears.
Prayer. The action, though.
It's almost that submission as well. Closing your eyes.
Yeah.
It's like you're actually obedient to not allowing anything on the outside to.
Well, and you're not talking to anybody out here. You're talking to what's in here, in your heart, which is where the Torah is. God's teaching and instruction. It's written into our heart.
I like this here, that this eyewitness thing, the soul of every Jew, which really, that's us, we're spiritual Israel. Sort of is an eyewitness to the essential unity of God. You know, the scriptures say that, you know, the Word is God, you know, Yeshua came in the flesh, and, you know, Yahweh. So we're an eyewitness of those things. That's who we are. You know, He lives in us. This is just deep, and it goes back to what you've been saying, Jason. If you want to know God, you got to know yourself and look inside at yourself. That's where the revelation of this stuff comes. You know, I know for me, sometimes I think, oh, you know, I want to watch all these teachings and do all these different things, and there is value to that. But there's also a lot of value figuring out who I am, because if I figure out who I am, it's the only way I can gauge where I'm at. My true position is to know who I am. You know, and so this is fire stuff.
This is the steak right here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, what do you guys think of, like, with closed eyes we testify twice every day? What do you think that means? Because I don't know.
Where does it say that?
On the second sentence.
With closed eyes, we testify twice every day. Twice every day. Hear, O Israel, God is our God, God is one. So 3 times a day, is that's what's repeated twice, and then something else is prayed another time? I'd have to go back and research that,
Yeah,
but I would imagine.
I was just
Typically
curious.
it's 9, 12, and 3, and it's all, everything in the Bible is out of the mouth of 2 to 3 witnesses too. Let it be established. There's so many things like that as far when you start getting in real
Yeah.
deep.
Yeah.
That's first word of the Shema here. One.
I like even I don't know if that's supposed to be the ayin of the first word Shema here and the dalet of the last word Akkad 1 are written large. Together they are spelled the word witness. So just the complexity of, like, I don't know, the Hebrew translation of words are used, all of the words are used for a purpose. And if you think about hearing and, you know, being one with yourself, I don't know, the word witness kind of rings true.
Yep, it does. It's good stuff. Good thinking stuff. I don't know what this was, just some extra tidbits
Yeah, I'm not really sure what.
in regards to, defining more of what the word meant. From, I thought it should have been from, not form, but mouth, meaning mouth containing teeth, white space.
What about the next one, the disease resulting from an evil mouth?
Oof.
That's deep.
Yeah, man.
But I mean, it's true. You hear stress kills and all these different things,
Well, science is proving this now.
right?
So that's what it's, what we focus on, what we
Right.
mentally spend our time on, what we physically spend our time on, these things, if not good, are bad. Power of speech for your soul, for other souls. I mean, mouth of God reveals the Torah through the mouth of Moses. Interesting.
Great souls, the power
Jason,
of
dude.
speech,
Oh, go ahead.
the 32 teeth, and the mouth corresponds to 32 pathways of wisdom.
32.
Well, I got 32. So I'm a little off on that.
Gotta get one down, bro. Give me 32.
I'm missing 1, 2, 3.
And so from here now what we want to do is so now we have an understanding of what the words authentic mean and the word communication means. And now we will go back and begin to identify and clarify what authentic communication is. What are the things in which we use in authentic communication and practice authentic communication? We've talked about the mouth, we've talked about the eyes. I believe that we can communicate via our body, correct?
Posture.
That's body.
Yeah. Specific.
Well, we can certainly do that. As we go.
Hey, Jason, did you read the Torah for today?
I don't believe I have.
Okay. So listen to this. This is what it is. Topic: listen before you speak. I'll just go through a couple of them. Proverbs 18:13. To answer before listening, that is folly and shame. Often in our desire to be heard, we speak too soon. Other times in our need to be right, we speak wrongly. Speaking too quickly before we truly understand what is going on is never a good idea, no matter how tempted we might be to correct the situation. Listening in this context means understanding. To speak before we understand the situation at hand is unwise. It will make us look foolish and at times bring shame upon us. Instead, we must first listen fully and understand deeply before we dare pass judgment and make our opinion known. One way to lift people up in our lives is by speaking words of encouragement and inspiration. But another way to serve others in our lives is simply to listen to them in a non-judgmental manner. In this way, we allow people to be heard and to feel heard. Moreover, we can respond better in any situation when we have taken the time to truly listen. So every person has a story and a struggle that we know nothing about. I just thought that was pretty good, man.
It's on
That's
point.
what we're talking about. All lines right up, man.
So, I mean, it just added another thing to my list of communication, listening.
Right?
To be part of authentic communication, I would have to say that authentically listening is a part of that, is it not? And so what does that look like or sound like?
I feel like the other things that you wrote, your eyes, your mouth, your posture, all have to do with listening and understanding, like you're saying. Like if someone's speaking to a crowd, if someone's intently listening to that speaker, they can understand what he's saying because they're assertive. They're not talking. Their eyes are focused on what's being said, so they can visually see what he's saying on top of audibly hear what he's saying, and then making some kind of connection on those two levels. I feel like that.
So making, like you said, making a connection with when they're talking. You know, I feel like sometimes my ears could be open to what you're saying, but I'm not actually relating myself or really, I use the word a lot, but engaging, with the circumstances of what they're going through. So like making a connection mentally, like visualizing it or whatever it may be, so that you can respond in a way or not.
I mean, isn't that what grace is? The embodiment of it, anyway? The physical manifestation of it? Isn't that what grace is? Isn't that what the stories of Christ, that he went to these people and he placed himself in their circumstances?
I mean, on my list of ways to communicate, I have body, eyes, mouth, and then listening. To be listening, your body, technically, you have to be positioned towards them. Your eyes have to be in contact with them. Your mouth has to be shut to be listening. So that listening entails all the other three aspects of communication.
Yeah, I think a huge part of that also goes within not even the body language and all that's a part of it. That's like how you engage. But as far as like inside, like an example would be like, when somebody's speaking and you're just waiting for your turn to talk, like you're just rapidly like seeing what they're saying and picking and choosing things to say as ammo for yourself to emphasize your point of what you're trying to get across. Like you could be hearing what the person's saying, but really you're just listening for what you want to hear, not truly connecting with the other person and what they're trying to get across. Changing your perception to where they're at. I think that's a huge part.
Well, you're responding mentally.
Yeah.
And we just read about responding, or he just read about responding before hearing.
But that's not what you're describing, David. That's not even participating in a conversation.
Yeah.
That's just really where you're trying to guess what the other person's going to say. Basically, what you're saying to them is what you're saying doesn't matter because I already know what you're going to say, or the thoughts that I have are better.
Yeah, if you think about it, that happens very subtly in a lot of conversations.
Oh, absolutely.
It's very subtle. It doesn't even have to be a heated or argumentative type of conversation. It's just
It always happens from a position of defense.
Yeah.
So if we want to be on the other side of
That's an indicator that you're not listening or in position.
And maybe you're self-prophesizing now.
Good one.
If you find yourself always on that in that position
Absolutely.
where your comeback is aggressive and negative,
That's
Yeah, you can always tell by someone's reaction. You know, even if someone tells you something is wrong, you know, if you lash out back at them and tell them how they're wrong and blah, 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 this and that, then, you know, where's the grace in that, you know? And that's not positioning yourself to receive, right? I mean, and I know because that's something I used to deal with a lot, you know.
Yeah, I think
I've
that's
had to practice listening. And a lot of times you do have to practice.
I think that's the biggest indicator that you know something's off. It's getting defensive right off rip. Like you just said, it doesn't matter if what they're saying is right or wrong. If you get defensive, there's something inside you that makes that resonate as truth. Otherwise, you wouldn't be trying to defend your ego, or we